We're not the first, and we're definitely not the last to say that Cyberpunk 2077 hugely underdelivered. We were promised a vast, realistic open-world RPG experience, and instead we got an action-adventure game with a pretty decent story. Sure, the game was overhyped, but that was in part due to the developers teasing features like vehicle customization or the ability to join gangs. At this point, the game feels like an early access beta. For a game that needs at least a year or two's worth of polish. CD Projekt Red issued a statement recently, stating that they're going to be patching up the game, and while they may not overhaul the entire experience, we're curious to see what they do. Perhaps they can make this a No Man's Sky situation. It had tons of features that were promised or expected. Who knows, but we'll be optimistic with our list of 8 things Cyberpunk 2077 needs to fix. Before we jump into our list, don't forget to like and subscribe. As of right now, only Hotflix 1.06 is out, so if you're watching this a couple years from now, Cyberpunk could very well be a completely different game. Let's hope it is. Vehicle customization. Originally, the game was supposed to have a competent vehicle customization system. There weren't too many details surrounding what customization would look like, but it's fair to say that it at least allowed you to mod your cars, change some colors around, or maybe change a door handle or something. After all, those are sort of some basics when it comes to car customization. Well, the feature was cut, and in the final game, you can't customize your cars at all. Cyberpunk has some of the coolest, most futuristic video game cars we've seen in years, so it's super disappointing that you can't pimp out your ride. Most AAA open-world sandboxes have at least some customization options, so it's kinda bizarre that something so universal isn't in a game all about modification. We're really hoping CD Projekt Red adds some sort of customization in the near future, as we do know that the feature was being worked upon. But if you thought not being able to customize vehicles was bad, wait till you see our next thing that needs to get fixed. Body mods. It's somewhat ironic that a game literally about modifying your body and making it more machine than man doesn't allow you to do just that. Yeah, you can modify your V with certain cybernetics, but they're as surface level as the Mantis Blade. I mean, some of the NPCs in the game are all decked out with insane cybernetics and implants, and when compared to them, your Mantis Blades look as plain as vanilla ice cream. We'd love the ability to actually customize our characters' implants in cyberware.
Mark 1, like I said, decent enough scanner. Displays data on your cornea.
And see that they're reflected in how we play the game. Or even beyond that, we just want to look cool. I mean, how awesome would it be if we could make our skin chrome like some of the NPCs? We already have Ripper Docs, so it's not like they'd have to create an entirely new business or person to make those changes. Sure, it's a far cry, but you've got to think the team was working on some sort of way to mod bodies for aesthetic purposes. Speaking of aesthetics, let's move on to our next hopeful fix. Barbers Tattoo Parlors. Once you're done creating your V in the robust character creator, that's it. You can't modify them ever again. Hell, you can't even change their hairstyle or add or remove any tattoos. We hate to repeat ourselves, but one of the core components of the cyberpunk genre is the modification of one's body, and the game doesn't even let you do something as simple as trim your beard. We really hope CD Projekt Red adds at least a barber or tattoo shop so we can continue to change up V's look. When compared to some of the NPCs in the game, our Vs just look super lame, and we'd love to change up our looks throughout the game. Games like Saints Row and GTA have always had an exciting level of customability, so it's really disappointing that CD Projekt Red dropped the ball on this one. We'd also love more opportunities to see V throughout the game, perhaps adding more mirrors? Moving on from customization, let's chat about some of the gameplay. Better police AI. We know that this is one of the biggest complaints that the game has, the non-existent AI for police. Seriously, the cops just directly spawn right behind you, which is not just annoying, but also undermines the realism that the dev team tried to implement. we really hope that in a future patch, cops spawn outside of your direct area and eventually come and find you, like in most open world games. Beyond that, we really hope the team manages to implement car chases with the police, because at this point, the cops just stop following you if you go far away enough. This fix is definitely the most realistic, and it'll probably drop in one of the future patches. Hopefully, we can say the same for the NPC AI. NPC AI. As it stands, the NPCs are just as much of a mess as the cops in the game. We were teased an open world with realistic NPCs that you could have meaningful interactions with. They were said to have complex daily routines and complex lines of dialogue.
I want to get shot!
Of course, the NPCs at the moment are just pure filler. It's totally fine if we don't want to get what was promised. All we want is a better AI that matches the level of sophistication found in other world open games. Right now, if you hit an NPC, they'll cower in fear, but they won't run away or hit you back. The same happens when you steal someone's car. Sometimes if you change your direction, NPCs will literally disappear into the void. And of course, some NPCs will just T-pose to assert their dominance. This is not what we should expect from a game with this budget. Like we said, we don't need anything groundbreaking or revolutionary. We just want something that matches that standard of other games. Buy apartments. Night City is a large and vast city with a booming real estate market, so it'd be awesome to use some of our cash to buy new apartments. Staying in only one apartment throughout the game is kind of a drag, especially because once you're in the endgame, your wealth and status isn't reflected in your apartment. We get that building a mechanic to buy a new apartment could be complex, so we'd love the opportunity to actually customize our apartments, make it more our own than the generic one we've got. I don't know, maybe this one won't happen anytime soon or could potentially be DLC like Skyrim did. However, our next fix is something that needs to happen freaking ASAP. Zoomed out minimap. Okay, it's not just me that finds the minimap way too zoomed in, right? Whenever I'm driving, I always end up missing a turn or exit because by the time it shows up on the minimap, I don't have enough time to slow down. And by then, I've already missed it. It's gotten to the point where I'm more focused on the minimap than the actual visuals of the game, which is disappointing because Night City is a blast to drive around, especially at night. I know this is a pretty common complaint, and it shouldn't be too hard to fix, so hopefully, the next patch zooms out the minimap a bit, or at least gives us the option to expand it like in some other games. A Transmog system. You're probably wondering what Transmog is, so let me break it down. Transmog is a system where you can change the appearance of an item without affecting its attributed stats. In Cyberpunk, stats are attached to a certain piece of clothing. Pretty much, if you want the best stats in the game, you have to dress up like a freaking clown because nothing you wear will match. So, some players have had to sacrifice their experience because they want to look cool and make everything match, but this leads them to having poor stats. The Transmog system isn't an industry standard, but most games these days have implemented it, so it's surprising that Cyberpunk hasn't. After all, the game puts a huge emphasis on style and fashion, but in the end, it can't amount to much because most players just wear whatever has the highest stats. It wouldn't be surprising if this system was added down the road, as it's not heavily requested, but it's also not difficult to implement. Well, there you have it, folks. 8 things that we hope CD Projekt Red fixes in Cyberpunk 2077. Honestly, if they keep at it, they'll probably end up fixing all these things. I envy the players who play this after 2020. Anyway, let us know in the comments if you think something else needs to be fixed. And be sure to subscribe for more Cyberpunk videos. And don't forget to hit the notification button if you liked what you saw. We'll see you next time on Game Planet.